Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be talking about the Valgyies, but we're also going to be talking about Prunus Lamina, the Magistral rod. We're going to be talking about TMR augmentation for STAFFS. We're going to talk about all of it because we are in a very volatile time for equipment. So we're going to be talking about Valgyies specifically, but whether or not it's going to be the best in slot in the future for Renan. So let's go ahead and dig in. So Valgyies' claim to fame is going to be its Spirit Penetration 20. It's going to come with its magic form with 160 magic accuracy 10, which is overall a good staff. Having access to Spirit Penetration is great, particularly if a unit does not natively have Spirit Penetration. Renan has 40 with a passive, and he can get an additional 40 from his limit break. So with this staff, he can easily hit 100 Spirit Penetration. The question is, do you want to hit 100 Spirit Penetration, or do you want to maybe go with one of the other staffs like Prunus Lamina for a higher mod? And this is all going to kind of mesh together, you know, with the TMR runes coming out and with +6 now announced on JP. You know, we're getting to a point increasingly where the piece of equipment that you put on a unit is going to be dependent on what you are doing. And different pieces of equipment are going to do different things. And I think the Valgyies, very similar to some of the other conversations we've had around equipment recently, with the Valgyies in particular, it's another tool to put in your toolkit, but it's not necessarily going to be the best in slot, right? I think we are very attached to the idea of a piece of gear being the best piece of gear for a unit, and it's non-negotiable. I think that's how people look at things. That's how people, you know, they want to know how to build their unit, set the gear, and just ignore it and use that unit. But we're increasingly approaching a point now where that's not happening, where TMR runes are going to be able to augment TMRs to be almost better, or arguably much better than Valgyies. We're in a place now where +6 was just announced on JP, where if you actually watched my last video on the +6 pieces of gear, the +6 pieces of gear are all kind of unique. They're giving like damage limit +1000 on them. They're giving things like AP back on critical hits, right? Like, they're all unique and they're all being used in a different circumstance. And so when I'm looking at this staff right now and I see Spirit Penetration 20, I'm like, okay, this is really good. This is going to be really good if you're on a unit that maybe doesn't have Spirit Penetration. Spirit is going to be more prevalent with TMR runes. There's going to be a little bit more Spirit, double VCs. But overall, I don't think it's going to be the best perfect staff in most situations. I think a lot of the time, particularly in PvE content, for Renan, you're going to be using the Prunus Lamina, which, if you aren't familiar with Prunus Lamina, it does have a lightning attack +20, and it has magic attack +15, in addition to the magic version having 150 magic. You may have an aim version, which has 15 accuracy. But that 35 mod from the lightning attack up and the magic attack up is going to be really powerful for Renan, and it's going to make him hit harder, particularly in PvE situations. So I think a lot of the times you're going to see people utilizing Prunus Lamina. I also think in PvP, for example, you're going to see a lot of people utilizing Cypress Staff for the Magic Resistance Penetration 20, because we do love Spirit Penetration. And Spirit Penetration is wonderful, but Renan already has a lot of Spirit Penetration. What Renan doesn't have a lot of is going to be Magic Resistance Penetration. So anytime you can level the playing field and kind of, you know, stop any one of the resistances from inhibiting your damage is going to be good. So I think there's a large chance we're going to see a lot of Cypress piles on him as well. I think either of them would be great right now. The problem with Cypress Pile, though, is that the opponent, you're assuming the opponent has magic resistance, and odds are the opponent's going to more likely have Spirit than magic resistance, but we are entering a world where there is going to be a lot of units with magic resistance. So, I mean, it's one of those situations where, again, you pick and choose your targets. You try, I think, like, if you're universally in a PvP situation, you're wanting to deal damage, you would probably be setting the Cypress Pile. Candidly, though, if you're taking Renan into PvP, you may set like double accessory with Alexandrite Ring and some other form of accuracy just to try and maximize his chance of actually hitting. You might not even set the staff. But again, that's not fully what we're talking about here. We're really talking about staffs for him, and specifically Valgyies. There are, of course, other staffs to consider as well. We do have the Platinum Rod, which the +6 was just announced. This is a mistranslation, actually. I already talked to Bismarck about it. But it's increased agility 10% under 80% HP. So this would be an example of how +6 gear is going to change. We also have things like the Guard Rod if we wanted to give him magic attack up and he could get 8% magic resistance. I just hope I'm making the case right now that there is a variety of weapons and there's not necessarily a sole best weapon for Renan. Finally, we also have the Inga staff, and a lot of people are probably wondering why on earth I'm mentioning the Inga staff. It gives magic attack 10, it gives spirit penetration 15. The reason this is relevant is going to be with TMR runes. And again, when you're thinking about TMR runes and you're thinking about weapons and staffs, Inga staff is going to be really good. It has really high base stats on it. It has magic 108, accuracy 10. It has magic attack 10, spirit penetration 15 again. So if you are wanting to set up a really good TMR staff, you would probably use this as the base staff, and it would likely exceed any other staff that you could put on any unit for damage in the game. With the combination of spirit penetration and modifiers on it, I mean, the only way you're going to get more potentially damage is if you like TMR augmented something else and you were, trying to do that universally. But if you went like just staff and TMR augmented the heck out of this, I tried to find a picture online of a really nice TMR augmented Inga staff, and I haven't found one yet, but it's going to be chonky. It'll be really good. So while the Valgyies staff is really cool and the spirit penetration 20 is great and it has 160 magic, I think the odds are going into the future that we are going to end up with a lot of staffs that are significantly better than it. I think we're going to end up with a lot of staffs that have different functions, which will be better than it. And I think in a lot of the PvE situations, Prunus Lamina is going to be better. So this is going to be a really good weapon to get. It's going to be definitely glamour endgame. You may use it in certain situations if you're going up against really high spirit opponents. Again, with TMR augmentation and double VCs, we're likely to see a little bit more spirit on our opponents, but that also means we're probably likely to see a little bit more magic resistance as well, to kind of lean more towards the Cypress staff direction. One other staff that I haven't mentioned yet as well is going to be the Magistral Rod. Now, the Magistral Rod is also one of my favorite staffs. It gives magic attack 15, but it also gives evocation boost. This evocation boost in PvE content, or if you are trying to solo raids, or if you are in a content that you are repeating quite regularly, there are times where having this evocation boost can also help you significantly in terms of evoking an Esper and lowering the enemy's resistances to that specific element, increasing the damage for that specific unit and your entire team. So having increased evocation gauge boost, I think, is highly underestimated. People always see that I equip Magistral Rod all the time in PvE, and they're like, why on earth are you equipping Magistral Rod? And the reason is, I think Espers are very underrated, especially in PvE content, and I don't think we've gotten to a point yet in the game where we have enough evocation gauge boost on gear to really make use of this. But with Terra coming out and with potentially maybe some other summoners in the future, I would be really curious to see an evocation set or potentially PvE runs that focus on Espers. And I think we are approaching a world where that may be possible. But yeah, I think my Magistral Rod is the one holdout that I just want to let you guys know about. Also, the +6 version, if you didn't see, gives 7% light and dark resistance, which is pretty powerful. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, of course, if you're going up against a light unit, the Dark Dragon Wand is going to be fine as well. And just messing around. To be fully honest with you guys, I don't fully understand the TMR augmentation system yet. It's a lot to wrap your head around. but just messing around with the Inga staff in the TMR builder on WoTV Calc, you can see here I was able to get like plus 20% magic, an additional plus 90 magic, plus 10 lightning attack. And I know there's a lot of RNG involved and you're going to be messing around with it, but this is just an example of what potentially an Inga staff could be in the future and how it could potentially be better than anything else in the future. For any of you who are wanting to find this, you do have to go to the JP side of WoTV Calc to find this. You can mess around with the passives and the stats, and it's a lot of fun. So anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching. I'm curious what you think down in the comments down below, and have a great rest of your day.